I'm not sure what your question is, but I thank you. And I think
Speak up a bit, please. Thanks.
what is in evidence is session is about road and rail. And road has taken up 5/6 of the time allowed for the session. And it goes to show that the abandonment of rail and its ignominy is actually by design. But I thank you. The reason really for the failure of the government-run railway are several. But essentially, it's in its inability to compete for business against a versatile road sector, which is privately run. And this is because of the anachronistic structure of the industry. So we must reform and restructure it. The good news is that the restructuring of the railway environment has commenced, albeit belatedly, with the Constitution Amendment, which took place in 2023, in which railway was moved from the concurrent list. And it provided a template for the unbundling of the NRC as because now we have the regulation as an exclusive preserve of the federal government, whilst operations and infrastructure or asset management is still in legislative concurrency. I would particularly pay tribute to that National Assembly Constitution Review Committee, led by my brother, the former Deputy Senate President, Senator Ovie Omoagege, who led that committee that passed these amendments, and also commend Senator Orji Kalu, who sponsored the bill, because their efforts culminated in the outcomes that we are currently living off. The next step is that we must repeal and reenact the railway bill because it's now in conflict with the Constitution. And there is a bill to that effect in the National Assembly, which is sponsored by Honorable Blessing Onu. That bill is the product of work at the Interministerial NRC Unbundling Committee, which is domiciled in the Federal Ministry of Transportation. And it has had the input of various stakeholders in the Nigerian Railway Corporation, in the Federal Ministry of Transportation, in the National Assembly, as well as the private sector, represented by myself and others. That bill needs to be passed as an urgent imperative. Our railways require in the order of $40 billion in infrastructure and equipment to put it in a position so it can effectively compete and complement an intermodality with the roads. The bulk of this investment can come from the private sector. AFC recent research has revealed that there is about $1.1 trillion of institutional assets in Nigeria, and with $4 trillion across Africa, with over $777 billion. And I'm saying dollars, we're not talking naira here. And all I'm looking for is 40 billion. So it's significant. With over $777 billion of assets under management in pension funds and insurance companies, these are significant offering potential to finance long-term development. A large proportion of these funds, however, is actually held in short-term, low-risk instruments. So it is not a doubt, or there is no doubt, that the money is available. Well, how do we make railway investable? That's the big question. Now, unbundling the railway creates those products that the private sector will be attracted to invest in. But we must learn lessons from the unbundling of PHCN, because there are many landmines in the process. But generally speaking, a railway system consists of two components: the infrastructure and operations. The infrastructure, of course, is the permanent way, which comprises the track, station, depots, marshalling yards, signaling and communications infrastructure, and so on. And the operations are those elements that provide the service, the management of rolling stock, and so on. Now, when they're both managed by the same organization, we call that vertical integration. And when they're managed by separate organizations, we call that vertical separation. Now, these are very important distinctions, and we will come to that when I start to drill down on the model that we've recommended for the Nigerian railway system. Now, when the vertical separation model, with the infrastructure being managed by a public or private monopoly, market forces are supposedly expected to be strong enough to generate efficiency in the provision of services. And this is, I suspect, what the moderator was referring to about fragmentation. And but there is a strong for the integration of both interfaces, and this makes the case for vertical integration. But there is a strong case as well for competition in the provision of services, and that supports separation. And that probably explains why many countries where competition has been introduced into the rail, that the compromise has been partial separation, or what you call disintegration, where the infrastructure manager also runs services or runs operations in competition with other operators. But when vertical separation is complete, the main problem is to ensure that the monopoly infrastructure manager does not abuse its position. And this requires robust regulation. Now, there's a further structure called horizontal integration, and I'll just briefly explain that before we conclude this presentation. And it's that horizontal integration refers to where various operators or operations or markets are served by the same operator. So an operator that provides freight and passenger services may be considered as horizontally integrated, or integration may arise from the serving of different geographical markets. So an operator may be deemed to be horizontally integrated if it provides services on, say, Lagos to Kano, as well as Port Harcourt to Maiduguri. We talk about horizontal separation where operators serve discrete or unique products, i.e. discrete markets or unique products. In such a situation, a freight operator on Lagos to Kano, for instance, would be a different organization from that which provides passenger services on it. By the same token, a vertically integrated organization may provide horizontally integrated services on, say, Lagos, Kano, while another provides similar services on Port Harcourt, Maiduguri. This will be considered as a horizontally separated network with the integrated operators. So, for instance, consider a journey from Lagos to Jos, which necessitates a stop at the intermediary node of Kaduna. The segment Lagos to Kaduna can be viewed by the Kaduna-Jos operator as a necessary input to provide Lagos to Jos. For this reason, the separation of Lagos to Jos into two products, namely Lagos-Kaduna and Kaduna-Jos, can be considered as horizontal separation. So here is our recommendation for the restructured railway industry. And by the way, there are a few slides that provide these descriptions graphically. And they're with the Secretariat, and I believe that they would share them with you as part of your summit resource packs. The NRC is to be unbundled into 4 components. An independent rail regulator, to be known as the Nigerian Railway Authority, in the mold of the NCC or NERC. NERC is the electricity regulator. That's the first one. Second is an infraco, an infrastructure company, which we have christened the Nigerian Railway Infrastructure Company, which will own the fixed infrastructure. It will grant operations and maintenance concessions to the OPCO. It will build new railway infrastructure, which it will also concession to the OPCOs. And it also develop property consistent with the Hong Kong MTR model. It will have a core investor with at least a 51% stake. The government may, over time, reduce its stake further or eventually exit through a market flotation. Now, the operations company, the OPCO, could be separated, and this is our recommendation, that it did indeed be separated into a freight operator and a train operator. And there are reasons for this. There are 2 very, very distinct businesses. They use different equipment, they serve different markets, there are organizations. You can imagine a passenger train operator has on one train probably 400 to 1,000 customers, whereas a freight operator has only one customer, that could be Dangote Cement. The train operator has all of these customers. One could lose an umbrella.
Rowland, if you can quickly sum up, please. Thank you very much.
I'm coming to it. Now, the train operator is unlikely to attract private investment, but the government may appoint operators to manage them for a fee or under what we call a public, a PSO. So we will have a partially disintegrated railway network with horizontally separated operators. The 4th component comprises the residual non-core assets, which could be privatized.
Rowland, we're yet to hear from the Honourable Minister. If you can quickly round up. Thank you.
Yes, I heard you. These comprise factories, foundries, caterers, hospitals, printing presses, property which could be sold off, and they would thrive better than they currently do in the private sector. Some of the property holdings, of course, would be retained and invested in the infraco for future expansion of the railway and for the development of high-yielding assets. An optional component is what we call the ROSCOs, the rolling stock operating companies, which can lease rolling stock to the OPCOs to lower the barriers to entry in that industry. We recommend 2 at least initially, or 2 at most initially, perhaps one with Wabtec at the core. Wabtec is now the owner of the former General Electric equipment business, GE Transport, and the other could be CRRC. Another new component in which
honestly, Rowland, I think we have to stop at this point, really, honestly. No, Rowland, please, thank you very much.
No, I disagree. Is the rail build, own, operate company. Roads took up all of the time. Railway is getting 10 minutes, and you're saying we should stop. We're not stopping, sir. I'm sorry. The rail boo companies are mining and manufacturing companies who may seek licenses to build and operate railways. It is quite good that we have Engineer Mansour here, as is with Dangote, because Mangal, as an example, Mangal, Boa, and Dangote are moving very significant quantities of coal from mines in Kogi East to their cement plants. And they're doing all of this by road. The strain on the roads is telling and is unsustainable. So we need them to build, own, and operate their own railways. And these railways can use the public infrastructure to link up to. Now, the minister is at the helm of this restructured railway environment and is responsible for policy and provides statutory guidelines to the various actors and players. He awards the franchises to the various operators on the recommendation of the InfraCo, as this comes with the impetus of the President, which may give comfort to investors and subnationals. Now, a key feature, and this is my last throw on this, key feature of this plan, or call it the linchpin of this restructured railway environment, is the independent regulator. Regulation has traditionally been the province of the NRC, managing the infrastructure and its operations as a vertically integrated operator on a horizontally integrated network. Its self-regulation clearly creates conflicts of interest, and it shows in its poor outcomes or poor outputs. The independent regulator is a relatively recent phenomenon and was defined by Margaret Thatcher of blessed memory as a body with its own powers and responsibilities given under public law, which is organizationally separated from ministries and is neither directly elected nor managed by elected officials.
We want to plead, sir.
Independence.
We want to plead with you, sir.
I'm almost done, sir.
We're pleading.
Almost done.
We're with you on the real matter, but we're pleading, sir.
I hear you. Just give me 2 minutes. I'm concluding this. Independence may essentially be examined from two standpoints, which are the regulator's relationship with government and in particular with the elected politicians of government. Okay, I hear you. But for the regulator to be truly independent, it should not ordinarily be possible to appoint or dismiss it until the end of its tenure. I think that is the model that we have implemented with the NCC and with NERC. The statutory public interest duties must clearly be set out in legislation, and the minister cannot just dismiss the regulator. It must have regulatory oversight, and so on and so forth. And the regulator's powers must be wide-ranging and include to consider complaints about possible infringements, impose interim measures to prevent serious and irreparable damage, carry out investigations, and so on and so forth. Now, the benefits of this restructuring is that it enables risk to be shared and borne by those best placed to manage it. It will encourage specialization and play to the government's strengths, while the private sector will invest and bring about efficiencies in operations. Most importantly, and this is the key, we will have a sustainable railway. Finally, I have a plug. There is a new book coming out shortly, published by the Nigerian Institute of Transport Technology. It's called Thoughts on Land Transport Development in Nigeria, and it's edited by Professors Joshua Odeleye and Bayero Farah. It is a 447-page compendium of essays by experts covering road, rail, and urban transport, and transport technology and innovations. Chapter 14 is an essay titled Nigeria Railway PPP Options and Some Lessons by Rowland Ocholi Ataguba.
Thank you very much, sir. We look forward to the launch of your book, and I'm sure that everyone here will try to get a copy.
Yes, I commend the book to you, and I thank you for your patience.
Thank you for your time.
And I'm happy to take your questions.
All right.
And any
Can we please give him a round of applause? And we apologize for not prioritizing the rail sector. We'll promise to do more of that. Thank you very much, sir, for your time.
In the heart of the city where stories unfold, Njenje Media TV shining bright and bold, bringing news from the corners of the globe, connects us together no matter the road.